In the summer of 1970, I was teaching at Holy Cross, and in the summertime I was looking for a job. And a colleague of mine who taught at Penn State recommended me to design at Glassboro Summer Theater. So I came here to design the summer theater, and I met Mike Kelly and did the shows and met the students, and he started to pressure me to come and work here because he had an opening, basically, and he was looking for someone to fill the space. And I thought that because it was closer to my family in Washington, D.C., and because it was closer to New York than Holy Cross was in Worcester, Massachusetts, that it would be a good choice. And the other thing was I was really taken by the students here, and I can't explain it, but they were, the kids that I worked with in summer theater really impressed me, more so than the students that I'd worked with at Holy Cross, and I don't know what that's all about, except they were just wonderful. So I made the decision, and I came here, and basically I've been here ever since, more or less. Is that in the early years of the program, the students ran it because it was basically the campus players that were in charge of doing shows. And like Jack Shaw was the treasurer, and he paid the bills, and the faculty had to go to the students to get okays for the cost of doing shows and deciding what the shows would be. And in the early years, which would be the first 15 years that I was here, everything was negotiated with the students. They were in charge. It was a kind of like an old-fashioned way of doing things, like at a high school, where the money came through student government. It didn't come from the university at all. They were like colleagues almost. You know, they really were part of what everything that we did was because of the students. And they took on responsibilities because we didn't have a large faculty in the early years either. So they were hands-on people. My teaching load, as I remember it in the early years, was living theater, the general education course for everybody in the college that wanted to take a theater class. And I think I taught that, and in the first year I got to teach a seminar class, which filled my load. But see, my load was half designing shows. So I only taught 2 courses each semester in the early years, so that'd be 2 sections of living theater, one of which was at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it was hard to do that and also work on shows. But that's what I taught for the early years, mostly living theater and play production. One section of play production also. I taught by showing people how to paint, take this brush, do this thing, go over here. And in the early years, that's what we did. I mean, we were always doing the process of doing the design, building the scenery, was a teaching process. And the students were there. You know, they were doing part of the work, part of because they were required in their stagecraft class, which I didn't teach. Bob Clapp taught that. But I was there working on the project, so many of the students would end up on a crew working with me, even though I wasn't necessarily the teacher. And that's how they learned. And sometimes we threw them into, into the job without any real experience, you know. The musical production of Man of La Mancha was one of the most memorable, and it had just closed in New York, so it was kind of a special thing, and they actually had to sell tickets to the dress rehearsal because everything else was sold out. Now we built the stage out over the what would have been the orchestra pit, and it had a raising and lowering drawbridge. And it was quite spectacular. Musically and, dramatically, it was very special. A great special memory. Preceded that with The Doctor in Spite of Himself, which was also done with music and dancing, and it had a very complicated set. So those first couple of shows were very, very special. Our plan was to expose the students in the course of 4 years to all the major genre of the theater. That would include the Greeks and Shakespeare and Molière and the Scandinavian playwrights, Strindberg and so on, plus the modern things. They would always do a couple of modern comedies also. When I look back over the 96 productions that I designed, I know that I've covered all the bases, and that's a wonderful feeling. It is. I feel good about that.